This time I call the regular meeting of the County Commissioners to order, our September 13th meeting. We're going to ask the Director of the Development Authority, Mr. John Stone, if he'll come to the podium and give us our invocation. And then we'll ask you to remain standing and pledge allegiance by Commissioner Clyde.
Bow our heads. Oh Lord, we thank you for the privilege you've given us of living in this country, in this state, and especially in this county, where we can conduct our affairs and control our business with our own elected officials. We ask you to bless these officials here tonight and put your guiding hand on them and direct them to do what's best for this county in your eyes. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For anyone that does not have a copy of the agenda, I hope we have enough. Please flip it over, look to the back side. So anyone that will be addressing the board, your decorum is on there. We ask you to please follow it. At this time, I need a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meetings.
Mr. Chairman, I make that motion that we approve the minutes.
Have a motion, is there a second?
I second, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Williams, second by Commissioner Wade. Any discussion on the motion? Chair hears none. All in favor of the motion, let it be known saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion is carried. Approval of the agenda is item number 5. I will have some comments that I'm going to want to make, and it will probably come after the library board appointment between 13 and 14. So if there's no objection, then we will place that in there so I can make a few comments. With that added to it, is there a motion that we approve the agenda as printed and added?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second?
I will second, Mr.
Motion
Chairman.
by Commissioner Clyde, second by Commissioner Collins. Any discussion on the motion?
We can't put your comments after the German, can we?
Probably could. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion's carried. Departmental reports. Office of Emergency Services, Director Broom.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. You have my written report for activities in the previous month. I have nothing to add to that unless there are questions.
Any questions, Director Broom? If not, we appreciate that. Item B, 6B, Recreation Department, Director Glaze. Director Glaze is... He is at the Rec Department with some activities going on. Good for him. You have his written report. You can read. If you have any questions, you can contact him. Item 6C, Finance Director, Director Penny Arnett. Let me make a comment. Tonight is her first night attending a county commission meeting. Her first day of work was Monday. She's had a long and extensive career. I'm not going to give you her age, but she worked for many years with the state of Georgia at the Medical College of Georgia in accounting. She worked for the Lincoln County School System for 17 years in accounting, and she's worked at the former State Bank after she retired from those two places. And now she's gone to work, and she is Lincoln County's new finance director. She's replacing Tracy Bussey, who was the longtime finance director who died suddenly back in June. And we certainly miss her, but we welcome Director Arnett to our county family. And I know that she will do a good job. I haven't bothered her much this week. She's been in and out with our auditors and our accounting firm that has been helping during the interim, and will be helping her over the next few months till she gets comfortable in her position. She's a little shy. So she has her report. This is the first time, and I think since June meeting, that we had our financial reports by commission meeting day. However, We got them about 5 o'clock this afternoon. They came in. They are in your books, though. You have your August financial reports in your books, so you can look at them, and if you have any questions, then contact Director Arnett or myself. So, Director Arnett, with that, we're glad to welcome you aboard. You have anything you want to say?
Glad to be here, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item D, Public Works Director Seymour.
Chairman, members of the board, you have my written reports for Public Works. I don't have anything to add to those unless you have questions. I'll be more than happy to answer those if you do.
Any questions, Director Seymour? If not, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, item 7 is we go into a public hearing. I need a motion to go into a public hearing to discuss the applicant of Booker T. Elam Jr. on a rezoning request, map 37, parcel 65. Is there a motion that we go into a public hearing?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we go into a public hearing.
A second.
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Collins, second by Commissioner Clyde. Any discussion on the motion? Chair hears none. All in favor of the motion, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion is carried, and we are in our public hearing. Again, you see the summary information and the information that's been presented to you even up until just a few minutes before we came upstairs. The planning board has listened to this and has done it. The rezoning request to apply for rezoning from A1 to C1 to use the parcel of truck parking for truck parking and maintenance. Mr. Elam has applied to the Planning and Zoning Department for the rezoning request to be able to use this parcel for truck parking and maintenance. The property is approximately 3.28 acres and has frontage on Chip Mill Road and New Petersburg Road. The zone is currently A1 agriculture, and the rezoning request is for C1. Director Seymour.
Yes, sir. My board heard this recommendation Monday, September the 10th, and after a fairly lengthy discussion, there was a party there opposing the rezoning, and Mr. Booker T. Elam was there for the rezoning. My board approved the recommendation with a vote of 3-2, with the stipulation that buffer requirements be placed around the property as required by our planning and our ordinance, and that a building permit be obtained within 12 months, or the property would revert back to A1. So the recommendation is for approval.
Okay, is Mr. Elam here? Mr. Elam, if you would come to the podium, state your name, speak distinctly into the microphone so we can hear you, and also you're being videoed for LCTV too, so.
All right. Booker T. Elam, Jr.
Okay. If you would, just tell us a little bit about what you want to do.
Okay. Basically, there again, what it is, I'm just trying to get the property rezoned from A1 over to C1. I understand a lot of people are going through and having a lot of issues as far as just EPA issues and whatnot. I already know, and I have to accept responsibility for every bit of that, and I'm obligated to keep this property up. But basically, we're just trying to go through and have a home for our trucks and whatnot and repair. We've been doing a lot of mobile repair over the years, over the last probably 15, close to 20 years. As time has went on, we're dealing with a lot more stationary businesses as far as businesses here in the county. Just a few different ones, Reed Ice, ACOT Logging, different ones like that. I used to do a lot of work, just more or less, just out on I-20, out in the Columbia and everything. We don't do all that now. So basically, I'm just looking for a more stationary place to take care of business. And I already set up. I didn't get to get my my EPD number today, but just kind of being proactive on it in case everything goes fine. I'll have that number tomorrow, and as soon as I receive it, I'll get it over to planning and zoning. Like I said, according to how things go, either way, I'll be in the system. And so,
Okay.
more or less, yeah, go ahead.
Any questions from members of the board to Mr. Elam? Commissioner Wade?
Mr. Elam, where are you taking care of your trucks now?
Right now, I'm still doing more mobile business and all. Now, I do have a lot on 220, Highway 220.
Right.
But like I said there again, we're mostly mobile. We go from, different shops, like I said, Reed Propane, WSD over in Thompson. I mean, just all kind of locations. I've been,
Is that area, do you maintain that area out there well?
yes, now I've had some issues in the past when I was doing a lot of road service.
Okay.
Like I said, I was staying gone pretty much 12 hours a day or better, so I rarely saw the property. But like I said, and I've had some issues in the past, but those have been corrected. I've never been cited as far as with any kind of, as far as any fines or anything like that. Everything was always taken care of in a timely manner. I was actually just checked recently about, I'd say probably about 2 months ago. Jim Butler, he pulled up, and I'm used to seeing Jim, just over the years and everything. But he told me, he said, look, he said, everything's clean. He said, I'll let Robert know, everything's good and clean or whatever. And he said, now, I don't know if they filled out a physical report or not. I don't know. But if Robert, he can get that to you as far as however, if it was verbal or whatever.
Well, I know I've had some discussions with Director Seymour and involved the chairman a little bit in it, but, we are a tourist community, and I'm asking him to consider doing some kind of ordinance
That's
to
fine.
where we can clean up mobile homes and junk cars and get Lincoln County looking better. So anything we do going forward, I want to make sure that's what's happening.
Well, that's not a problem to me. I have the same goal in mind,
Okay?
so.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else on the board?
I got one, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Clyde?
T, on the drawings that you gave us showing the buildings and all, I know the picture just has that one little standalone building. Are you adding some buildings, or are they already on site?
Which is that the,
I got this one that shows the shop floor.
okay, you should have gotten, it should have been a, Robert, did you get the big one?
I think he's building a building.
Okay.
It might be my fault, maybe I didn't look hard enough.
Well, some of this you just got this afternoon. You got that one.
I've got a little color drawing, is that
Yes,
what you're
okay.
talking about?
Is it? Yeah, what it is, they didn't get it quite right for me. It will be a building in the back, back there, and I should have just some physical pictures also, but it'll be more or less just a shop, kind of further to the back there, and then that one office building that's already there, we're gonna go through, and as long as the structure is fine with it, we'll keep it there and just do repairs on it. Now, they do have a little wash building there. I'm gonna do away with it, because it's deteriorated already. But other than that, between the building and that, and then also the fencing and everything that'll be put up, I'm hoping to go with some 8-foot fencing up there with privacy felt, black felt around it, and that'll be the other 50% of my buffer. It's already buffered about maybe 50 to 50% or better, all the way around with just trees and whatnot and vegetation that won't be disturbed. And even from the highway, just coming down New Petersburg Road, you can't even tell what's in there or if anything's over there at all. So it's already got natural vegetation out there and a buffer.
T, how big is the building they're showing in the back?
It'll be roughly about a 55 by 40, well, basically 40 feet deep and 55 across the front. And so it's not a huge, huge building. Like I said, I'm just a small operation.
There's no contamination on that property this time, right?
No, I spoke to Barney Jr. out there, and he told me that when they dug the tanks up and everything, they had them to go through and do testing on everything. And he said they had a clean bill of health, and I checked with them on that before I purchased.
All right, thanks, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions to Mr. Elam. Commissioner Williams.
Mr. Elam, how will you be disposing of the oil, your burnt oil and your fuel and everything?
Basically, if you look on the front page here, what we're gonna do, we'll actually be installing a waste oil furnace. And what that is, I think it has maybe like a 200, maybe a 250, yes, 250 gallon tank. And basically this system accepts transmission fluid, diesel fuel, anything basically concerning the vehicle or whatever. It'll take care of all of that. And it's an approved EPA item. And even I spoke to them today or whatever, just to reassure everything on that. But yes, it'll be taken care of with that, and it'll be used to heat the shop.
Go ahead.
There's another question. Sometime the church probably will be having functions at the church on Saturdays, and, service on Sunday. Will you be working on Saturdays, for that noise control, or?
Well, I'll answer this two ways. For one thing, if they have something going on, if they can come to me ahead of time, I can always, well, at least most of the time, I can try to go through and change my schedule up. I don't mind working along with them with that. I know at times they'll have funerals, revival, different things like that. So, I can be it's flexible with them on that. And as far as on Saturdays, and sometimes I won't even be there on Saturdays and all. I have children and everything. We go out of town on the weekends and different things like that. So my schedule will kind of fluctuate also on that. But as far as working hand in hand with them on that, just as a neighbor and with the community, I don't have an issue with that.
Any other questions for Mr. Elam? Okay, Mr. Elam, don't leave, but
Oh, I'm not going anywhere.
is there anyone here wanting to speak on behalf of Mr. Elam, and not personally, because not personally, but I'm speaking on Mr. Elam as to him being granted the rezoning request he's asking for? Anybody here that wants to speak? Oh, you want to speak on behalf of approving the rezoning? Okay, I'm coming back to you. Okay, no one wants to come before him on Mr. Jones. I'm assuming, I'm not assuming nothing. Okay, is anybody here that would like to speak to the commission that's opposing the rezoning? If you will, come to the podium and state your name.
Good afternoon. My name is Ben Parks, and I came to speak on behalf of Prices Road Church. And basically, I think, and the church asked me to relay their conveyance, that they feel it could be an eyesore for us, Mr. Elam putting a shop there, because 2013 he was cited, and 2017 he was cited. And I know he said he cleaned it up on 220, and the issue is, if he cleaned it up on 220 at that site, seems like he ought to be able to build on that site and not leave, and not have to, how should I put it, and not have to disturb the ground, if any, toward Prices Road.
Director Seymour, let me ask you a question, and when the chip mill was there and the fueling facilities, I think, was actually on this piece of property, were they A1 or any other zoning thing at that time? Do you know?
No, sir. The planning and zoning was not in full effect when that took place.
Okay.
So there was not actually a zoning. Now the chip mill actually has a C1 status currently today. That piece of property does, but across the street, it's still A1. It was never rezoned or changed. And from my knowledge, and that was a little before my time, but my knowledge is they had a fueling station there with, I think, a 12,500 gallon tank in the ground. And I think they parked their trucks there.
So what you're saying is the chip mill was already there before zoning went in place in the county? Once
That's
zoning
correct.
went in place, they granted them a C1 status?
That is correct.
But they didn't do anything with this parcel over here?
That is correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask Mr. Parks?
Commissioner Clyde, I mean Collins.
Mr. Parks, as I understand what you're saying, is the church is really opposed because for the aesthetics. They don't think it's going to be pretty. Or there's going to be a lot of old trucks and old equipment parked around. Is that correct?
Correct. That's correct.
Has there been any mention in the church about what Commissioner Williams has said? You're having service, maybe a funeral on Wednesday afternoon or whatever, and the noise, if this went forward, the noise from Mr. Elam's business might interfere with the service. Are y'all concerned about that?
Of course we are. And once the chip mill first started, it started shutting down when it was a funeral.
That would have been my next question, because if I remember correctly, the chip mill agreed that if something was going on at your church, they would shut down.
That's right.
Did that happen and did it work?
As far as I know, it worked.
Okay. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other commission? Commissioner Wade.
Ben, how far approximately is the church from this area? Is it very visible from the church? Where this truck, home of the trucks would be?
It has a tree line adjoining to Price Grove.
Okay. How visible is it from the bypass, where all our lake people's gonna be going? Fairly close? I know we're gonna put a buffer around it, but.
Which way? You can come in from 79, or you can come in from New Petersburg Road.
New Petersburg is what I was thinking.
As Commissioner Norman stated, it has a side to New Petersburg Road.
Well, I'm all for small business. That's what I'm into. But I'm also interested in the county looking good. So I'll go back to the chairman.
And mainly, another issue could be the tires and what the tires could generate on the property.
Okay.
Anyone?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question
Mr.
I'd like
Collins.
to direct to Director Seymour. I think I know the answer, but sometimes I need to make sure I'm thinking right.
Yes, sir.
This piece of property is located at the corner of New Petersburg Road and Chip Mill Road.
It actually goes all the way through to Fire Tower Road. It has frontage on both
Okay.
New Petersburg and on Fire Tower Road,
Okay.
and on Chip Mill Road.
All the way down to New Petersburg Road. Because
Yes.
I think, if I remember the chip mill, you turned and went up the Chip Mill Road, and then you went into the chip mill.
Correct. And the question was asked in the Planning and Zoning Commission actually by me, because one of my concerns was secondary county roads like Fire Tower Road not being able to support trucks of any size on them without tearing them up. And Mr. Elam explained to me that his entrance would be off of Chip Mill Road. In other words, you would come down New Petersburg Road, turn on to Chip Mill Road, and then take a right into his property, and that's where the entrance would be. They would not be entering from Fire Tower Road. Am I correct, Mr. Elam? Yes.
But I thought, doesn't Fire Tower Road intersect?
It does below
Chip
the
Mill Road?
church. It does below the church. Oh, Chip Mill Road, yeah, Chip Mill Road, I think you've got a drawing of the plat in there. Chip Mill Road runs between New Petersburg Road and Fire Tower Road. So he's got road frontage on Fire Tower Road, New Petersburg Road, and a portion of Chip Mill Road. There's actually a corner up there that he does not own, correct? Is it all of it? Okay. So it's that whole block over to the church?
I guess the point I'm trying to get at is, it does not matter where the entrance is.
No.
What matters is where the truck driver decides he's going to turn to go in.
Yeah.
If he decides to turn and go across Fire Tower Road, that's where he's going.
True.
Well, we can handle that with not allowing trucks on Fire Tower Road.
And it's already marked.
And I think his traffic, I'm satisfied, would come off of New Petersburg Road, turn left on Chip Mill Road, and you've owned his property to the right then. He's got, if his square touches those three roads, the back part, which I think's behind this office, I know it is, behind that office to the northeast, I guess, that piece of property joins the church's property where the cemetery is today. Is that right? And it's a little wooded area there, and it's also a little buffer, waist high, something that would catch rainwater, whatever, divert it on down toward the ditch at Petersburg Road.
Correct.
That's right.
Correct.
But this piece of property on the backside joins the church's properties.
That is correct.
Nothing else in between.
They share a property line, correct.
I think most of Mr. Elam's property would come, if not all of it, would come from, and we could see to that it had to come in off of New Petersburg Road. Okay, any other questions? If you would come to the podium, turn that mic around if you would, Mr. Parks, there you go. Once you get to the podium, if you would, you can state your name.
My name is Stanley Key.
Who?
Stanley Key.
Okay.
And I'm here to represent the community that he coming in. First of all, he said he gonna put a accelerator there that's gonna burn the oil. Now, I live about 300 yards away from the property. Now, is this accelerator gonna smoke? Is it gonna put smoke up? Because oil smokes a lot when you burn it. Now, anytime it smokes, where's the soot gonna settle? Is it gonna settle over people's houses? I mean, I gotta sit on my back deck and anytime smell oil burning. I don't work 50 hours a week, but I'll sit on my back deck on Sunday trying to enjoy a steak, me and my wife, and I got to smell oil burning. Or another thing about the tires. How many tires are he going to allow to have there? Tires create mosquitoes. Tires create reptiles. We're going to have snakes. We're going to have possums. We're going to have armadillos. We're going to have rats. We're going to have mosquitoes in our area. So how would all that be handled? I mean, we don't need all that on where we live. I mean, another thing, how many acres is it? 3 acres? Tell me you have to have 2 acres to put a house, but you can put a big old shop for a truck on 3 acres of land? That don't add up. Seems like to me 2 trucks to take up the land. It don't add up. You take 2 acres just to put a house, but you can put a shop on 3 acres. I don't see it.
I understand you.
Yes, sir. Yeah, somebody need to tell me something about this one.
I understand exactly what you're saying. I will try to address that, though.
Yeah.
You got lots of places, Fire Tower Road particularly, none of them's on, it's really 2.5 acres, not 3. Depends on how it's zoned and what you can do, whether you got water and sewage, you can go down to 3/4 of an acre. Yeah. If you in a agricultural zone, which those lots were done before this came in, but if you and they could be smaller lots because they do have water. But if you're in an agricultural zone, let's just say you up on Prater Road somewhere, right, then you would have to have a minimum of 2.5 acres to build your house on. If it's rezoned A1. The reason that this would not have to be, it's not a house, we're dealing with a business that we're changing from an A1, which is an agricultural one, to a, what we changed it to, C1? To a C1, which is a commercial deal, then your size comes different. It's different once it goes from a rural setting to a, in other words, if you're gonna build an agriculture zone, you wanna have some goats and cows and hogs and whatever, you need more than an acre or half an acre to do that. So you in an agricultural area so you can plant your gardens, have your animals or whatever, you know. But that's the reason for that. That's a different issue, but I know exactly where you're coming from. I know where you're coming from with tires being out there. That's a good point. I don't know how many tires he keeps. Okay.
EPD rules and regulations will allow him to store 100 tires, up to 100 tires. However, they have to be covered, either housed in a building or with a cover to where water can't accumulate in the tires that would breed mosquitoes. But EPD allows up to 100.
Okay.
And I want to ask a question. How is he planning on covering them?
I can't answer that.
Yeah, because just like I said, even if you cover them and don't store them in a building, you're still gonna have, I mean, it may keep water out of them, but you're still gonna have reptiles gonna go housing and living in them. And I mean, you just think about, like I said, 300 yards away.
I certainly understand your concerns.
I mean,
Thank you.
all right.
Anyone else that wants to speak? Yes, sir. Come to the podium, state your name.
My name is Robert Hurst. I'd like to say good evening, everyone. My major concern about this relocation is the cemetery.
Is what?
The cemetery.
Oh, yeah.
I've been around a lot of chemicals. In fact, I'm in maintenance, so I know about oil. The elevation, as some of you know if you walked it, it's like this. The proposed rezoning area where the shop is going to be built is going to be on a higher level, if I could say, than the cemetery. See if you could picture this. Your house, where the cemetery is, okay? And there's an oil spill up here, unknown to the owner. So it runs down the hill, penetrates into the ground, get into the grave. We got a problem. So what do? We get the EPA involved, DOT probably, then we got to do some excavating. And if it's in the grave, it's got to be redone. So my main concern is not, I don't like the eyesores, you know what I'm saying? I don't like junk. I don't like a junket area. You can take the city dump and make it neat. But my main concern is contamination in the cemetery. And I don't know what length that they would have to go to prevent it. Are you going to spend that kind of money? I mean, we talking dirt, we talking downhill flow, we talking saddle, we talking rain, we talking runoff into the cemetery. It's got a slim chance not to get that. That's my main concern. I'm a deacon at the church. I've been there a while, and the cemetery is very important as far as the dignity of the ones who are laid to rest there, as well as the members and the community.
Thank you. Anyone else here want to speak for or against?
Mr. Chairman, may I be allowed to ask Mr. Elam?
Commissioner Collins, you can proceed.
Mr. Elam, the question's been brought up, you want to incinerate the oil. Is that
Okay, go ahead.
The question has been asked that, or it's been stated, I think you stated that you would incinerate the oil, but you'll burn it.
Mm-hmm.
Is it gonna give off smoke?
No, no. And that's the thing about it, you know, if you got questions like that, and really just kind of go to the person that you really need to find out from first off. But These type systems are used in shops around here, J&E, JC. I saw JC had one set up probably 10, 15 years ago like that. R&W, they use them and all. The one I have here, it'll basically just be a more up-to-date one. So there's no way the guys could even work in the shop if it's putting out anything like that. So they wouldn't even make anything like that. That's nonsense. But this, like I said, this is basically approved by the EPD and everything. It actually has a recycle symbol on here. That wouldn't make sense. How could they do that and they're putting off smoke, being the EPD product?
All right, I have one more question. It's been said that you can store up to 100 tires. And we're not talking about 13-inch tires.
That's correct.
Where are you going to store them?
Basically, what I'm looking to do with that, I'll go through and basically have an overhang. Well, at least I got two options. I either go with an overhang or I'll go with basically a fenced area, roughly about the size of the area right there where y'all sitting right there, and basically just have it housed with the roof over it and just have chain link fence around it to keep it dry. I'll have boards on the inside of it to keep the tires off the ground. They won't even touch the ground. And I don't deal with that many tires anyway. What I do with my equipment, once a year, we go through buy brand new tires for them, put those on, and I don't even know if I even keep any of my new tires there anyway, to be honest with you. But like I said, at the beginning of the year, I bought 4 sets of tires. We still running them. We're just about at the end of the year. We're getting ready to do one more purchase. And so I don't have to change tires. They're brand new tires.
Okay. One last question. Where you're currently located on 220? I'm not asking where, I'm saying where you are currently located.
What do you mean?
Well, I understand that, you know, I don't understand. I think one of the requirements I would have to have is that you clean up where you're at right now.
Well, that's, like I said, they just checked. Jim Butler checked again, like I said, roughly about 2 months ago. He came in, checked, he reported to Robbie, and he let him know, you know, he's working, but he's clean.
There's nothing there. No trucks, no use.
I mean, we're gonna have trucks. You take,
Broken, not going to be used trucks.
Say what now?
Trucks that are beyond repair or old parts laying on the ground or anything?
No, it's some trucks there, but basically, like after we had the meeting the other day or whatever, and what we've been doing anyway, during the winter time, that's our slowest period right there. We take equipment like that, basically strip those down, and we haul them off. So, I mean, but now if I got a truck, which I got one there I bought maybe about a year or so ago, me and my brother went and picked it up, drove it there, paid a little over $12,000. Driver called me one morning, you know, the truck just stopped on him. Well, now, I'm not throwing that truck away. It needs an engine in it. I have extra blocks and all. With me having a facility set up like this and whatever, I can set aside a room to keep my blocks and everything. I've had cranks and all kind of things damaged because I had no housing for it. So, I mean, but yeah, I have some that, yes, I'll get rid of that are non-repairable. You know, but other than that, as far as a unit like that, it's sitting there, a whole unit, and what I can do just to further help the situation, we'll completely drain. And I told one of my employees today, trucks like that, we'll completely drain them, everything will be dry. I'll keep the keys and stuff at my house. That way nobody try to start them or nothing like that. If it's, you know, something that's already broken down, and we'll do that just to, and like I said, you won't have any issues. It'll be like anything else parked.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I ask one other thing, Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Williams.
Yes, Mr. Elam, why you want to be on this side of town? Why this area?
Well, for one thing, really the main thing with it, I've worked at that property where people have parked, they've been parking trucks there for years. And even a lot of people in the area, they, probably just about everybody in here mostly, probably thought that place was commercial. I thought it was commercial. And I think that's something maybe the county just missed from, you know, from years ago. Like you said, they probably didn't have planning and zoning set like they do now. If you had fuel tanks in the ground, of course, that's going to be commercial. That's bottom line. But like I said, that may be something that kind of slipped under. it wasn't so much as me shifting from one place to the other or whatever. It's just the simple fact of I already know what the place was set up for. The grounds and everything are solid. Like I said there again, I've worked out there on trucks for the last 4 or 5 years for people that parked out there. We've done oil changes, we've done brake shoes, wheel seals, airbags, changed batteries, whatever, with my mobile business. I've had no complaints. They didn't even know I was there, had been there. And that's with no facility. So with that facility being there, I'll be even that much more, basically cleaner with it. And like I said, there was nothing left there then. Because if that's the case, Robbie or somebody would have came to me years ago.
Any other Commissioner Williams? Commissioner Wade?
I won't take but a minute. Do you presently own the land now?
Yes.
You already purchased it?
I do.
Okay. The only other thing I would think about is 3 acres square. It's about 600 feet one way and 600 feet the other way. That's not a lot of area. You need to do a lot of buffering in there if we do that for the benefit of the neighborhood.
Well, and like I said there again, I've provided some pictures and all showing just basically the view from the highway.
Right.
You can't tell what's in there. You don't even know if anything's in there.
Yeah.
So like I said, it's already got natural vegetation there already as far as a buffer. Like I said, an 8-foot fence, just like I explained when we were in the planning and zoning meeting and the hearing and everything Monday. Average person between 6 feet, a little under or whatever, maybe a little bit over or whatever. I'm looking at going with an 8-foot fence. As far as just for our privacy, ourselves. I don't know what the theft rate is out there or whatever. And basically I'm gonna have black privacy cloth going around. I don't know how bad they wanna see in there or whatever, but then my thing is what you don't see, you won't steal. I do not know the neighborhood like that.
Well, you need to be thinking about cemetery because, that's very important.
And the thing about it too, that's another thing. If I felt, and I mean, I can truly tell you this, if I felt there was some type of issue, I never would have applied, I never would have purchased the place.
Okay.
I never would have. And just looking at the grade of the land there, it does not go that way. I've been to houses in that area, that whole side, if you're standing on the side where the church is, if you come out of the church and you turn basically to your left, it slopes towards New Petersburg Road. You go over to my property, it slopes towards Petersburg Road. Even the field, it's a big field next to that. Everything is sloping that way. Everything slopes that way. And even on up Fire Tower Road, I was at one of the neighbors' houses there, live in the community. Guy I used to work with, just speaking to him the other day or whatever. His whole backyard is pretty much washed out because everything slopes that way. So there's no way possible for anything to go that way.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you. Director Seymour.
Yes, sir.
We've all heard the issues. I'm not going to reiterate them, but a couple of questions is I think two things that stick in my mind is tires, which that happens in multiple places. And I certainly understand the gentleman's statements. It is true that they heavily breed at least mosquitoes. That's an EPD issue, but it's also a county code enforcement issue to see to it that's right and whether or not we call in EPD. Is that not correct?
Yes, sir.
The next issue that I have is that's weighing is the buffer zones. I understand that we require buffer zones in lots of areas. Is this buffer zone would be required of him would be what? Is it just fencing and bushes or shrubbery, or is it anything that would be built to contain an oil spill, or just what type of buffers are y'all requiring from planning and zoning that he do to that property if he's granted?
There are a couple of ways that he can meet the requirements of the buffer standards. One would be, all of them require a fence. It's going to have a fence around it. The second would be either a natural buffer, which would be natural grown trees that are currently there. That would
Have
not
y'all
be disturbed.
required anything in what you did at the planning and zoning that gives him guidelines today of what he would have to do if he's granted a
Yes,
rezone?
sir.
What
The
is
buffer
that?
requirements, well, he can obtain it in several ways. He can either have natural growth that's already there, which we did, I think, over at Commissioner Clyde's place as well. If there's not a natural buffer there, then he would have to build one, whether it be with a fence, and there are stipulations in there as to what kind of plantings he could use. They have to have a certain growth rate. They can only be planted certain widths apart. Or he could build a berm out of dirt.
I think a berm is pretty much that, from what I looked at,
Right.
I considered a berm.
And so he could have a berm with plantings and not have a fence. So he could obtain the buffer. The buffer requirements are pretty lengthy. There's about 7 or 8 different ways you can obtain that buffer. But what the code says is that any abutting property that is not zoned likewise, in other words, if this ends up being a C1, then any portion of that property that abuts another zoning change, like a A1, like the church would be A1, he would be required to have a buffer zone.
Is it not true that on the church side, and I call it the back side,
Yes, sir.
it already has a natural
Correct,
buffer?
and he can obtain that with a natural buffer that's there, as long as he leaves that natural buffer there with the tree stand. He could leave that there, and that would become a natural buffer, and I think it requires a 50-foot natural buffer. In other words, it would have to be 50 foot wide.
Because I'm looking at a picture of it, because
Yes,
I'm
sir.
very familiar with it anyway, but I'm
Yes,
looking
sir.
at a picture of it, and I know that buffer's there. Okay, any questions from any of y'all to Mr. Seymour, Director Seymour?
Mr. Chairman, I guess, I know some decisions come before us are yes and no, and some, it's not an easy answer. And apparently the planning and zoning was split on this a little bit too.
Yes, sir.
Is it reasonable to say, let's go back to planning and zoning, see if there's a better solution or some way to come up, or you think?
Commissioner Clyde, that's a question I'm going to address before we get through.
All right.
Okay, I just want to be sure y'all had anything else for him. If not, he can come back up if you do. Okay, let me make my comment. We have heard from both sides. Let me say that zoning came in the county, I think, in the 1990s, was that early 1990s. So we've been in the zoning business 25 years or so, long time. Maybe even started in the late 80s, I'm not sure. But anyway, when you get into zoning, you got a land, it's called the land use ordinance, land use. The role of the commissioners is not to listen to how many people are against something or for something. That weighs heavily on it, and we have to do that. The law requires that we give you this chance at a public hearing before we vote. What we have to do is go by guidelines that are set in county ordinances that deal with this particular thing. A county ordinance is a book just like a Georgia state law book. They call them the laws, we call them ordinances. That's uniformed across the 159 counties. What our role is after listening and making up our mind and the recommendation from the Planning Commission is that we have to decide, and it really goes with the Planning and Zoning Board, is their duties are to kind of investigate, listen to you there too. And you got 5 people over there, which those 5 people, each one of those people are appointed by one of us. to serve on that board, they make a recommendation to us. It is not a final say-so, yes or no with the zoning board. It's only a recommendation. It has been the policy throughout my tenure as chairman that we try not to overrule the board when they send a recommendation to us. However, we have that authority to do that. What we have to do is to try to make up our minds in the terminology of land use plan, is to determine what is the best use of that property for the county today and forever. I'm a firm believer that governments at all levels are too involved in our businesses. I really do. But if we didn't have rules and regulations in governments, we would be in a bad state of mind nationwide. That's the reason we have rules and regulations. Ultimately, the responsibility of what happens on a zoning change by law falls on the Board of Commissioners in this instance. We have to make that decision. They're not always easy decisions to make, and a lot of feelings can get hurt over zoning issues. Columbia County hurt mine not too long ago when they wouldn't zone something for me. Now, we're at a point after about 50 minutes of having to do something one way or the other. As Commissioner Clyde stated, now I'm answering it for you. We have 3 options that we can make. I think it's 3. Count them for me. I can't count quite that well. We can either vote to accept the recommendation of the Planning Commission, change it from A1 to C1. We can vote to overrule the recommendation from the Planning Commission and deny it. As Commissioner Clyde stated, I think he came over to us on a 3-2 vote.
That is correct.
3 of the 5 members voted in favor of granting and giving him the C1 status. 2 members of the board voted no, so it passed by majority. The third and final option that we have today is to send this back to the Planning and Zoning Board, ask them to study it further, particularly get more answers from the applicant. I want Mr. Elam to understand too that, you know, you can get so many regulations put on you that you can't even afford to do what all we could ask that you do to get there. I understand it. And you know, the last thing in the world Lincoln County needs businesses terribly bad is to run off businesses. Now, where that business needs to be located, that's a different situation. One of the reasons that a question was asked is why, by somebody that was opposing it, is why he couldn't put it down there where he is. The county is not in the spot zoning business. Spot zoning is, if you do that, you just about don't need zoning. Spot zoning is everybody runs up here and wants to change the use of that piece of property. We just grant it to them and don't have these hearings and don't make decisions based on what's in the best interest of the neighborhood, the church, and the community. I don't know if Mr. Elam, how many people he's talked to from the church are in the neighborhood. I think it's obvious to him that the church does not want his business located next door to them. And I think it's pretty obvious that the neighborhood of Phi Tower Road don't want this business in their neighborhood. So you can see the situation that we in. Somebody's got to make a decision. It can't run forever and ever and ever. Fortunately for us, we ask every one of you to vote for us, and the majority of you did, or we wouldn't be sitting up here. So you ask us to make these decisions, and sometimes we have to do what we have to do. Sometimes it's fun being a county commissioner, sometimes it's not too fun being a county commissioner. You hope and pray that you make the right decision that's in the best interest of the county and the people we serve and live with, and we go on and we friends and shake hands when it's over. I don't want to see a church split with Mr. Elam or Mr. Elam with a church over however this rules. I'm going to ask, though, Commissioners, that we take one of these options that we do. We have to have a resolve to this in one of those three ways. I am open for a motion of one of the three. And that's going to start a conversation again once we get a motion. We have to have a motion, and we have to have a second. Then we go to a discussion between us, and then we have to vote. If a motion's made and doesn't get a second or whatever, then I'll rule on that as we proceed through the process. So I am, unless you have a question for Director Seymour, I am asking for a motion from someone to either approve it, deny it, or send it back to planning and zoning where they can hear it again and get more information. I don't want to repeat myself, but y'all might want to talk more, and the church might want to talk more, or you in the church might want to talk more over the next 30 days if that's what happens. So what we got to do is have a motion for one of the three things, and I ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion. Sooner or later, we got to face the facts and make a vote, so it's not that I'm afraid to vote either way. But I do think we need some answers and a little more specifics. I make the motion that we refer it back to planning and zoning, see if they can come to more of a consensus of the way to present it to us and come to a better solution for all involved. So.
Have a motion by Commissioner Clyde to send this zoning request back to the Planning and Zoning Board for them to hear at their October meeting. There's a second to that motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Motion by Commissioner Clyde, second by Commissioner Collins. Any discussion on the motion? Chair is none. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion is carried unanimous, that it will go back to the Planning Commission, and it will be back on our agenda again next month at the October meeting. Is there a motion that we go back into regular session?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, I second.
Motion by Commissioner Wade, second by Commissioner Williams. Any discussion on the motion to go back into regular session? Chair is none. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion's carried. All of you are welcome to stay. We'd love for you to stay. We have refreshments afterwards. We got prime rib, asparagus.
Mr. Chairman, I do want to state that that meeting will be held in my office at 5:30 on October the 8th for any that want to attend that meeting back in front of the Planning Commission.
And I encourage as many of you that can to go and keep it good. This has been a good dialogue tonight. It's nobody's feelings are hurt, I don't think. We just don't want to, I'm assuming that's what they did by the motion they did. We don't want to jump into something and make a bad decision hasty. I don't want to, so you see where we're coming from. We can talk about this all night. Okay, and if y'all would, October 8th?
October the 8th at 5:30, yes, sir.
Okay, so all of you that want to stay, you're welcome to stay. Anybody that wants to leave, then you certainly can leave now or at any time that you decide you want to leave. Again, thank you. Item number 8 is the renewal of the county maintained boat ramps. Director Seymour. Hold on just a minute and we'll let them.
Yes, sir.
Didn't nobody want to stay listening to my little speech? Thank you, Mr. Parks. Robert, I hadn't seen you in so long. If you hadn't told me who you was, I don't know if I'd have known who you was. Kind of remind me, eyeballs up of Mr. Collins. Y'all have a safe weekend.
Mr. Chairman, you have a letter in your book from the United States Corps of Engineers. We currently have a contract or a lease contract for 9 boat ramps that belong to the Corps of Engineers, however, we have a lease on them to maintain them. What they're asking us for in this letter is to respond to them in writing as to whether or not we are interested in extending that lease when it runs out in 2020, I believe, is the expiration of this. It consists of 48.63 acres and 9 boat ramps, and I believe that you have a map on the second page of those 9 boat ramps that are currently.
How long
under
is this
that
lease for?
I believe that this lease is for 5 years.
Is there a motion that we accept the renewal of the county maintenance boat ramps with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers? Give me the authority to sign, Mr. Chairman, and the Clerk McKellar is the clerk.
I make a motion,
We
Mr.
have a
Chairman.
motion by Commissioner Wade. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Clyde. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion is carried. Item number 9 is the agenda, speed limit change to Chamberlain Ferry Road and Double Branch Road. Director Seymour.
Chairman, we have been approached by several individuals on Double Branches Road about the speed limit on Double Branches. Currently, that speed limit is 55 miles an hour. I have ridden that road. I live on that road, so I drive it quite frequently.
Director Seymour.
Yes, sir.
I noticed Commissioner Wade got real attentive when we got talking about that.
That's right.
Yes, sir. I have ridden that road, and for those of you that go down that way frequently, understand that this road not only has some pretty steep curves, fairly decent hills, but there's a lot of intersecting roads off of Double Branches Road that are kind of blind. You've got Reed Road, you've got Ralph Gooseberry Road, you've got Tankersley intersection there at 220, and then you keep on going, you've got Ashmore Barton. And then there are a lot of blind drives down that road. My recommendation to you, and we talked about this in the work session for Double Branches Road, is that we reduce the speed limit on Double Branches Road from 55 miles an hour to 45 miles an hour. Based on the width of that road, the curves in that road, as well as the homes that are positioned on that road and how close in proximity they are to the road. And then I would also like to request that intersections like Tankersley Road and those places currently have a 45.
Let's identify them.
Okay. Any intersecting road.
Martin's Crossroads.
Martin's Crossroad, well, I tell you, yes, sir. Maxim Road, 220 intersection, Ashmore Barton Road.
I think that's enough.
Those two need to be reduced to 35 at those intersections, and then after the intersection, it would go back to 45.
I tell you, that one, pulling out of 220,
That's a terrible intersection.
and you really have to watch
Yes,
to
sir.
the right.
Yes, sir.
Can you go ahead and just put
Yes, sir.
Chamberlain Ferry with it too?
Yes, sir.
Unless there's an objection, and we'll just vote on them collectively.
Yes, sir. Chamberlain Ferry Road, if you remember when Soap Creek Soap Creek Bridge was under construction, this board voted to reduce the speed on Chamberlain Ferry Road from 55 to 40 miles an hour during construction. I would like to also recommend, based on the traffic and the intersecting roads, that this road be reduced to 45 permanently as well.
That's from the Augusta Highway to the lake.
All the way to the end, yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so what we got is that we were voting to change Chamberlain Ferry Road to 45 miles an hour.
Yes, sir.
In its entirety, Double Branches Road to 45 miles per hour at the intersection of Ashmore, Barton, and Double Branches Road. We would mark it at 35.
Yes, sir.
And we would also mark it at Martin's Crossroads at 220 and Double Branches Road. Is there a motion?
I make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
That's second.
Mr. Chairman, I second.
Motion by Commissioner Wade, second by Commissioner Williams. Any discussion?
Can I-
Commissioner Wade.
I agree with everything Director Seymour said. One thing too about these vehicles on Double Branches Road, a lot of times Bussy Point down in that area, they're pulling a boat behind them,
Yes, sir.
and that gets dangerous. So, and I've had some calls also from people that live out there, so I think we need to do it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion? Chair hears none. All in favor of the motion, let it known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion's carried. Item number 10, Director Seymour. Let me state before you say anything, I guess you can see a vacancy over here with the county attorney. He is not here tonight. He was at the work session. He's familiar with all of this, and the reason he's not here tonight, he's in a county attorney school at the University of Georgia, continuing education, so he's in Athens today and tomorrow. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. As I brought this to y'all in our work session, we have a individual in Serenity Point subdivision, which is down off of Maxim Road, off of Nathaniel Farm Road. We have a gentleman that is delinquent on about 31 water accounts. Now, these accounts are availability fees that y'all are all familiar with, that an individual that owns the lots in these subdivisions pay $10 a month for the upkeep of the water system. This gentleman actually sent us a letter. His attorney sent us a letter telling us that he thought it was illegal for us to be charging him the $10 per month. We had Mr. Jackson take a look at the law, and he informed us that we were not in violation of the law and that, in fact, we could charge it. We, in turn, addressed him with that same letter telling him it was legal for us to do that. So we're at the point to where he has quit paying them, and even before this letter, he would quit paying them to the tune of about $4,100 that's owed to the water department.
Okay, we discussed this in the work session. I think we all are familiar with what we're talking about. We have, when Director Seymour said we had a letter from the attorney, Mr. Jackson looked at it. Judge Hammond, when he was the county attorney, is when this was done. And I'm satisfied that we are within the rights of what we're doing with the law. However, as you know, in some conversations it's been said that there are two different things if you look it up. One is what we did, which is availability. The reason we were able to do what we did in these new subdivisions, and that's all it touched, which the new subdivision went on several years ago, is because it's in the final plat. When the subdivision was done, that there would be no wells included in these subdivisions, and it would be serviced by county water or private water, in our case, county water. That's the reason the law allows for you to be able to do that, to build these systems in that area. We can't do it. We can't go down, we can't decide tonight that we want to go down Double Branches Road, and everybody that don't have let's just say if somebody's hooked our water system and their house is destroyed by fire, they don't build back, they go somewhere else, and they got a water meter sitting out there. The law don't provide that we can charge them $10 because they have a vacant lot and a meter is sitting there. Now, that's an entirely different law that governs those two things. We are allowed by law to do it because of the final plat and the reason that the water system was put in to begin with.
Correct.
And it has to be maintained. So it's two different things. I think some governments try to do it, and I don't think that they can because it don't provide for that. And we think, and Mr. Jackson thinks, that the letter that we got from the lawyer of this man was reading the part that I just said that you can't do. He didn't get into the other part. And I can tell you this. Since we sent that letter back, Mr. Jackson wrote that attorney back, and that's been 4 or 5 months ago. We have not heard from him. The only thing they're not doing is they are not paying their $10, and they haven't for some lots 22 months ago. So we have what, did you tell them the amount, $4,000?
Yes, it's $4,100 and...
4731.
$47.31.
Yes, sir.
All right, here's the motion. I need a motion. Giving me the authority to to instruct the county attorney to file a suit in magistrate court against the property owner. I can't think of his name, but whatever his name is, Mr. Jackson, I
Mark
believe.
Jackson.
that they would file a suit in magistrate court to make him pay what he's got in arrears that he hadn't paid. The second part of that is that we also file a lien against his property, each individual piece of property that owes the county money. So we want to get our money one way or the other. We get it through magistrate court, or if he ever sells that lot to somebody, somebody's got to pay the county. That's what we're asking. Is there a motion that y'all approve this?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Collins, second by Commissioner Wade. Any discussion on the motion? Chair is none. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion is carried. Item number 11, e-billing rate adjustments, Director Broom. As he comes, I will state that this was discussed in the work session. I don't think it'll take long for you to make just a little presentation because we know all about it. But before you do that, if you would take a few minutes just to update us on what to expect this coming weekend.
I was actually thinking about that as we were sitting. I got an email.
And while he's getting his phone out, Director Dockery, as you know, we have, and I talked to Director Broom about this morning, we have our Facebook up and going from Lincoln County government. I've asked Director Broom this morning if he would make an update on that Facebook at least twice a day that we could put out to the public of Lincoln County. And I think we got 10,000 folks or something looking at it now, that we can keep the people updated through Facebook as to what to expect until after the hurricane's over, Director Brown.
And I've done my best to do that today. I'm not a Facebooker, so I pray everybody will bear with me while I learn how to use that and
Have
get
you
on
got
with it.
that? Have you put one out today?
We put 2 out today.
Thank you.
This is an email I just got before we started this session. It is from Noah to GEMA and forwarded to the area directors and coordinators. Impacts to Georgia because of a slightly weakened initial state of Florence and a slightly altered track. We are now expecting less in the way of winds across Georgia and the local area. The far eastern portions of the forecast could see 15 to 20 mile per hour gusts and 30 miles per hour late Saturday into Sunday. We've had that, 3 times this week already. So it's something we've been watching very closely under the chairman's leadership. Director Seymour, we've coordinated, taken action to be prepared in case it was worse. But at this point, they're saying 2 to 4 inches of rain Saturday into Sunday for our area. And that forecast has held solid now for 48 hours. You know, Monday of this week, we didn't have a problem at all. Tuesday into Wednesday, the forecast models put it hanging a left and coming to see us. At one point, it had the eye coming right to Lincoln, but that's not the case. It is weakened. It's now a Category 2 storm with 100-mile-an-hour winds. Now, we need to pray for coastal Carolina. 100-mile-an-hour wind is no joke. We've seen it at Elijah Clark. We've seen it several other places. And when you spread that out over the width of 2 states, the coastal Carolinas are going to have a lot of trouble. Lincoln, I pray, is other than, you can't tell when a tree limb's going to fall and knock out a transmission line. But as it looks now, the impact here, 2 to 4 inches of rain Saturday into Sunday, winds 25 to 30 miles per hour.
Okay, thank you.
On e-billing, we have discussed this at length, and I guess the best way I can sum it up is I've been director in 2 terms for 18 years, and I have never...
Now, you're going to catch me, you keep on.
I have never suggested an increase in ambulance service rates until now. We have a very good billing company that is connected to EMS all over the state of Georgia. What I presented to y'all are the recommendations that they have made based on the CSRA and on the possibility of collections from EMS billing. Those of us who are in the medical field know that medical billing is totally different. Business owners can write an invoice for what somebody owes them, and those people owe them that money. Be it the government, be it John Q. Public, they owe them that money. That ain't the way it works in medical billing. You write a bill based on your cost, and the government comes in and says, we're not going to pay this. and so on and so forth. 16% of our users are private pay accounts. Only about 2% of those ever make payments on those accounts. So what we have is a rising A&R, aging receivables, and less revenue than we should have at this point. This move will generate $141,000 in billing. It will generate at best a little over $70,000 in actual revenue. If someone in medical billing wants to, my word is, if you're getting 50%, that's the high end of the bar. We collect 100% of collectible revenues. I mean, that's a statement. Now, hear it. We collect 100% of what we can collect. But when you're dealing with care, CAID, private insurances, write-offs, adjustments, et cetera, if you get 50%, especially in EMS, that's the high bar. We're grabbing the gold ring at the top of the fence post. This, there again, increases in fuel, maintenance. We have not raised, during the economic impact from 2008 on, we did not raise ambulance fees for the fear of being a burden on people.
Director Broom, let me ask you
Reel
a
me
question. we basically, you have the fee rate in front of you that tells you what it is, and we talked about this pretty good bit last week in our work session, so we understand, I think, and we know what we're voting on, but I don't really know what A0426 is. I know we got that, and you told me, and that's
Yes, sir.
the truth. I don't want to get back into it, but one of these, I see our highest rate is 775 on AD something. I just happened to catch a little bit of the news the other night, and Richmond County was wanting 1,600 and something for something, and I don't know if you saw that. And so many, $54 a mile or something. Was that right, Director Seymour? You said you saw
It's
it.
roughly that, yes, sir. That's
I mean, so we're nowhere in that neighborhood, but we are adjusting the fees of the users of the ambulance service. So we know what they are. I don't want to call all these numbers out. Clerk McKellar, you may need to get with Director Broom and come up with language file minutes that says which one of these is which, you know. We do know the numbers, but, and I don't know how you do that, whether you say, however you do it, it probably needs to be a little, if somebody asked one of us what we did, I want to be able to answer them.
yes, sir.
I mean, I know I can tell them how much it increased, but I don't know if I'm telling them that's for Band-Aids or if that's for oxygen use, or is that for your privilege to ride the ambulance. But basically, you see the rate increases, and we need a motion to adjust our rates to reflect to what Director Broom has said.
These are e-billing's recommendations for our rates.
E-billing, Clerk McKellar, you just be sure y'all get everything right for the minutes.
Yes,
But I think we know what it's doing, how much more it's supposed to bring in this kind of thing. Is there a motion that we adopt a new rate schedule for the ambulance service?
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Williams made the motion. Commissioner Collins seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, let it be named by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion's carried. Thank you, Director Broom. 911 update resolution, House Bill 751. Clerk McKellar, pull the mic close. You already have. Thank you.
Yes, sir. These are updates for our 911 resolutions in order to allow the Georgia Emergency Communications Authority to collect our 911 fees, and then they will pay them to us. This is required by law.
And we discussed this last week. We know what it is, and I'm going to tell you what it is. It is Wilkes Telephone or Reliant historically has written a check to Lincoln County for our 911 fees, which is $109,000 or something a year, whatever it is. They've written a check to Lincoln County, we deposit. The General Assembly of Georgia decided under this House bill that they wanted some of our money, so they created a 911 fund system where now the telephone company will have to send in January, instead of sending the check to Lincoln County, in Wilkes County, Columbia County, and the other 150-something counties. We're gonna send it to Atlanta. We fought it and didn't like it, but now they're gonna take, I think, 10% of our money, and they're gonna send us back the other part. So what I'm telling you is that's another loss in revenues. So, but we have no choice to do it. Is there a motion that y'all give me the authority, clerk, to sign the resolution for House Bill 751 on the wireless telephones?
Because it's required by law for us to collect, I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Have a motion by Commissioner Clyde. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Commissioner Clyde, second by Commissioner Wade. Any discussion on the motion? Chair hears none. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion's carried. Item 13, the Library Board appointment, Commissioner Clyde.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Nancy McGill is serving that position, and due to health reasons, she's had to resign and all. And as I was discussing this at home about a good person for it, my wife volunteered her services, and I think she would be good in that position, so I appoint Jackie Clyde.
Is that a motion?
Yes, sir. Have
a motion by Commissioner Clyde to appoint Miss Jackie Clyde to the Library Board to fill the unexpired term of Nancy McGill. Is there a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Have a second. Motion by Commissioner Clyde, second by Commissioner Collins. Any discussion on the motion? Chair hears none. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion's carried. I want to make just a comment before we adjourn. I promise I'm not going to make it too long. I'm sure you have, and I have had several inquiries. I know Clerk McKellar has because she mentioned it to me. Where we are with our lawsuit with the city. I'm going to try to the very best of my ability in the length of time that Commissioner Collins gave me to give this little talk.
3 minutes.
I might as well quit. Seriously, let me tell you, it is a serious matter. This has been going on this time since back before Christmas, probably November. When this started, it started with about 4 different things. One is, and most of you know, the wholesale retail price of water at Saddlebrook. We don't think that the intent of the agreement is being followed as far as the joint account and the county having transparency and knowing exactly what's going on with the money. Not that we're accusing anybody of anything, we just think it needs to be clear and the intent be followed of what the water agreement says. That's the second thing. The third and fourth parts of it are sewer. Now, I'm going to back up just a minute. I'm going to tell you that for the last, since probably January, I'm thinking, or close to that, we have been dealing, we've been to 2 different mediations between the city and the county on the SDS, the Service Delivery Strategy, that the law requires that we have to do every 10 years to renew these maps. This is where we have been spending our time over the last few months. Just last month, we had our second mediation after 5 or 6 hours, or however long we were there that time. We have come to no end of reaching an agreement with the city on the SDS. The Judge Overstreet, as you know, is in charge of all of this, and the state law says that SDS has to go to mediation. We have fulfilled what the state law said we would do. Since we have come to no agreement, then we will continue to be a non-compliant county indefinitely, or until the city and county reaches some type of agreement. After all of these months, I don't see that happening. For the public that may be listening to this later on this week, or next week when it's aired, we have had to draw maps, lots of maps, a lot of time spent with our engineers drawing these maps to go back and forth to the mediations. You draw maps, you don't agree to them, you leave, you go back, you have to prepare maps again for your next mediation and for the judges, and it's not just a few minutes that you go and draw a map. Hours are spent drawing maps. It's not, in other words, it's not cheap. So, the Georgia Constitution says that the county is the county. The city is the city. The city has no right to infringe in the unincorporated area without express written contract from the county governing authority. Nor does the county have any legal right to enter into the cooperative limits of the city of Lincoln without any express written contract from the city allowing the county to run a water or sewer line in the incorporated area. However, that is what the law says we have to agree on. If we're not, we're non-compliant. The Georgia Constitution says the county is the county and the city is the city. So where we are today is where we had maps drawn. We have maps. We'd be delighted for anybody from the public to go to Director Seymour's office, and we'll be glad for him or me or us to go over any maps. I think we've done all we can do really without giving away the county's water system. And that's not going to happen under our watch. And when I say our, I mean all five of us. I'm speaking, but I'm speaking unified, I can promise you. So, where does this leave us? This leaves us with nothing done. We're no better off today than we were when this started, except we know we got the county and they got the city. We agreed in maps for them to reach out into the unincorporated area. Land-wise, 3 times more than the city limits of Lincoln has land today. Customer-wise, no, it wasn't that much. For an example, we offered them Mr. Ben Otis Wright's property out here, Petersburg Road, 79 to Roland York Road. We offered them the unincorporated area part of Charles Ward Elam Road that goes over to the new high school, 400 and something acres around the American Legion, behind Wells Oil Company on down the Augusta Highway to a certain length, and others, even to the north end of the county. Never could we come to an agreement. They didn't accept that. They wanted more, and we just not going to do that. So I want the public to know, and I'm satisfied the city has spent a lot of money, but as of today, we have spent roughly $20,000 on attorney and engineering fees, and the result is nothing. Now, I'm through with the SDS. In discussing any more of that tonight, let me tell you where we are today. Yesterday morning, Mr. Jackson, Director Seymour, and myself met with Mr. Keogh in Evans to discuss the 4 parts of the water agreement that we started out with. A court date has been, I think, set. I don't know the exact date, but I know it's sometime in the month of November. Do you know the date? Sometime in November, a court date is set in Augusta before Judge Overstreet. I can tell you this, though, a few weeks ago, our attorneys and the city attorneys met with Judge Overstreet in his chambers, and that's when they decided the SDS wasn't going to happen. He has no authority to make anything happen on that other than to make us go to mediation. So after that, the only deal is non-conforming, and you don't qualify for any grants, state grants, and some permits and that type of thing. Moving forward, we have at that hearing before Judge Overstreet, the county's attorneys asked the judge to put it back in the hands of an arbitrator who would be former Superior Court Judge Lynn Allgood, who was the mediator. We'd go from mediation there to arbitration on this part. We would go down and we would work basically the same way to try to get some resolve, and whatever judge or the arbitrator came up with, we were willing to abide by that. The city's side, particularly Mr. Fleming, objected. He didn't want to go to arbitration. He wanted to go to court. He wanted to have a discovery and interrogatories and this type of thing to prepare yourself to go. Last week or week before last, we got our first round of discovery from the city attorneys. We have worked with Mr. Jackson and yesterday morning with Mr. Keogh, and we have came up with the answers to their questions to us. Now we are, I guess they sent it today, but our answers has been filed and all that's filed through the courts. Now we are working on our questions to the city. Once they get these discoveries done and you know, both sides knows what you're going to court for and what you're going to litigate, then we go before the judge and we state our reasons as to what we believe the agreement says, and of course, likewise, they do the same thing, and ultimately, the judge will make a decision as to how the interpretation of the agreement will be carried out. So, in conclusion, we're still waiting on that part of it. Hopefully, we'll have it completed sometime by the end of November. The other part, unfortunately, both governments will be non-conforming forever or until something brings us back to the point. Other than being able to qualify for these, we satisfied because the Constitution plainly states that we have the county and they have the city. Now, we will do our best to keep you informed. The commissioners are very informed of what's going on. Anytime we meet and are discussing things, they know pretty much what we're talking about before we go to do it. So with that said, that is where we are on the lawsuit. You know, if we can't get together, we can't get together. But I'm going back to January of this year. And a one-sentence remark that I made, that maybe it is time for city, county, and community leaders to look at the consolidation of these two governments that can't govern and do what we need to do for the people of our county. That's it. I need a motion to adjourn. Well, let me do this. So does anybody have anything they want to say, any remark they want to make? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make it, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion by Commissioner Clyde. Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, I second.
Second by Commissioner Williams. All in favor of the motion, let it be known saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carried, and we stand adjourned.